welcome to the Newshour Agenda as we bring you this week's episodes from Mumbai, of course, in the heat and dust of the Maharashtra election. But the debate today is about a big judgment coming out of the Apex Court. The Supreme Court has come down heavily on bulldozer action, particularly the demolition of the residences of accused or convicts, saying that that demolition cannot take place merely because that house belongs to an accused or a convict. They've also said that the executive cannot become a judge. The court has also, of course, issued pan-India guidelines, which includes a 15-day notice and also videotaping of the entire proceedings. And predictably, we have seen opposition political parties come out and cheering this particular judgment of the Supreme Court. Akhilesh Yadav coming out to say that from here on, bulldozers will have to be parked in garages. We've seen Asaduddin Owaisi saying that this will end the targeting of Muslims and also other communities, particularly the disadvantaged communities, was his statement. Listen in to the reactions coming in.
People have been waiting for this judgment for a very long time. There was an atmosphere of fear and scare. Bureaucrats and the politicians thought they can substitute judiciary and take revenge on the basis of state action, which is completely arbitrary.
सरकार का जो बुलडोजर प्रतीक बन गया था, उसके खिलाफ जो टिप्पणी की है, जो सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला आया है सरकार के खिलाफ, उसका धन्यवाद देता हूं, बधाई देता हूं.
In states like Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh, ruled by BJP governments, the state government, rather the BJP government, has taken the law in their own hand and then goes on to demolish the house. And majority of the bulldozer effect has been on minorities.
पूरे मुल्क में एक्स्ट्रा जुडिशल मेजर्स लिए जा रहे हैं, खासकर मुसलमानों के खिलाफ या माइनॉरिटीज के खिलाफ, तो ये एक हिस्टोरिक जजमेंट होगी जिससे लोगों को रिलीफ के साथ साथ इंसाफ मिलने की एक उम्मीद की किरण नजर आ रही है.
The BJP defended the action and said that all the bulldozer action that has taken place in BJP ruled states is as per the law. Listen in.
हम सभी सुप्रीम कोर्ट का सम्मान करते हैं और ये जो विषय आया है, यह कोई एक राज्य के लिए या एक दूसरे राज्य के लिए नहीं, ये पूरे भारतवर्ष के लिए आया है. स्वाभाविक रूप से आज भारतवर्ष में कानून का राज है, संविधान का राज है. जो भी यहां होता है संविधान के अनुसार होता है, और अगर कुछ संविधान के अनुसार नहीं होता है उसके लिए भी प्रावधान है.
Wherever action has been taken, it has been done following the due process of the law. And even in the coming days, wherever this bulldozer will be used, it will be done strictly following the due procedure of the law. We are a party that firmly believes in the rule of law and the principles of the constitution.
देखिए, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो आदेश दिया उसका पालन सरकारें हमेशा करती भी हैं और किसी की भी कोई ऑथोराइज बिल्डिंग को सरकारें नहीं गिराती है. अपने नियम और कानून है सरकार के भी, वहाँ नगर निगम में कानून है, उसके तहत में अनऑथराइज बिल्डिंग है, उसको नक्शा पास नहीं है और फुल इंक्रोचमेंट है तो उसको गिराया जाना कोई अपराध नहीं है, ये सरकार का अधिकार.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Let's take this across to our guest. Joining us live with us is Anila Singh, spokesperson of the BJP. We have Deepak Reddy, national spokesperson of the TDP. We have Shashank Shekhar Jha, lawyer of the Supreme Court. Sanjay Hegde, senior advocate of the Supreme Court, is with us. Akhilesh Katia, national spokesperson of Samajwadi Party, is with us. We also have with us Kamru Zaman Chowdhury, political analyst. Anila Singh, let me begin with you. The very fact that Supreme Court has today issued guidelines, it's come out to say that demolition without a 15-day notice is incorrect and that has to be put in place. Does this in a way acknowledge that demolitions that were taking place without notice is something that was wrong? Your response, Anila Singh.
My Ram Ram to all, and we all welcome that whatever verdict has been given by Honorable Supreme Court, and this should happen, and this is happening at least in Uttar Pradesh, and especially if I talk about BJP ruled states, we do follow rule, and whatever demolition happens, that is under all legitimate framework. So if anybody says, especially in Uttar Pradesh, I know it very well, as soon as this verdict came, Akhilesh Yadav started dancing, Mayawati, Prashant Bhushan, Congress party and all, you know, all those pseudo vote bank hungry political parties and the leaders, they started dancing. अरे अरे देखो मजा आ गया, ये verdict आ गया, अब तो पता चलेगा बुलडोजर जो है जाके गैराज में खड़ा जाएगा, nothing doing. A bulldozer action will keep happening. So all those who are dancing on the tune, they should stop dancing, because the action will keep on happening on all those buildings which are illegitimate, illegally constructed, or even after serving the notices again and again, time and again, they are not taking any sort of action on their part. Definitely bulldozer is going to take action. So whatever Supreme Court has said, we welcome it, and this should happen. At least Bharatiya Janata Party rule states it is happening, especially if I talk about Uttar Pradesh, because under Yogi Adityanath ji's regime, more than 95% of the action which is being taken by the bulldozer, that is absolutely correct and in all the spirit of the legitimate framework.
Okay. अखिलेश कटियार, आई वांट यू टू रिस्पॉन्ड टू दैट. जवाब दीजिए. वो कह रहे हैं कि जो भी डेमोलिशन हो रही है यूपी में वो कानूनी दायरे के अंदर है, पहली बात. और ये भी कह रहे हैं कि जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज इस पे खुशी मना रहे हैं, रिएक्ट कर रहे हैं, वो कहीं ना कहीं वोट बैंक पॉलिटिक्स के चलते इस तरह के रिएक्शंस दे रहे हैं. इन दोनों सवालों का जवाब दीजिए अखिलेश कटियार.
माधव साहब, आज जब से ये माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट का गवई साहब का ये फैसला आया है, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सारे प्रवक्ता इसको जस्टिफाई दो एंगल से करते हैं. अतीक अहमद का नाम लेते हैं, मुख्तार अंसारी का नाम लेते हैं, अपराध से जोड़ते हैं. तो पहले तो बीजेपी ये क्लियर समझ ले कि वो ये कार्रवाई अपराध रोकने के लिए करती थी या अनधिकृत जो कब्जे थे उसे हटाने के लिए करती थी. माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जो बयान दिया है, हम जो अनऑथराइज जो कब्जा है वो हटना चाहिए, हम उसके साथ हैं. लेकिन कानून अपने हाथ में लेके आप आम लोगों को डरा के, आप कानून को दरकिनार करके आप तानाशाही की सत्ता नहीं चलाएंगे. ये माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट का फैसला है. हम आपके जो संवैधानिक जो कार्रवाई है उसके खिलाफ तो हम कभी नहीं थे. और आप बात करते हैं कि इस तरीके की बात है. एक वकील हसन साहब का भी घर दिल्ली में गिरा था, जो उत्तर काशी में टनल में फंसे हुए 41 मजदूरों को बचाने का काम किया था. वो फैसला भी, वो कार्रवाई भी इसी देश ने देखी है. हम इस बात के खिलाफ नहीं है कि आप गैर कानूनी तरीके से काम होने दें, लेकिन कानून को अपने हाथ में लेके ना काम करें. सरकार ने, माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने घर के बारे में भी जो बयान दिया कि घर ऐसे ही नहीं बनता, लेकिन दुख तो इस बात का है माधव साहब कि जो लोग सत्ता का संचालन कर रहे हैं उन्हें ना परिवार की समझ है ना घर का पता है. अपने बच्चे हो, अपना परिवार हो, और जब घर टूटता है, कानपुर की घटना आपको याद होगी जिसमें एक बेटी और एक मां, उसी घटना स्थल पे जिनकी मौत हुई थी, वो भी बुलडोजर का ही कार्रवाई थी. कार्रवाई 2 दिन बाद भी हो सकती थी, लेकिन आप अमानवीय ढंग से आतंक फैला के डर का वातावरण अगर पैदा करना चाहेंगे तो उस मानसिकता पे माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने रोक लगाई है. और इस फैसले का पूरे देश का हर संविधान को मानने वाला आदमी, लोकतंत्र पे निष्ठा रखने वाले हर व्यक्ति ने इस फैसले का स्वागत किया है.
All right, let me bring in some of the other panelists as well. Shashank Shekhar Jha, one of the most significant points has been on the action taken against criminals. And we've seen in the past, how there has been action taken on criminals, particularly in the state of Uttar Pradesh. And the court says in its order that if the demolition of a house is permitted where multiple family members or several families reside solely because one resident is accused or convicted of crime, it amounts to inflicting collective punishment on the entire family or families living in that structure. Now, the question that then arises is in the case of Vikas Dubey or several of the other criminals who have seen whose houses have been demolished after the crime has come to light. The court says that even that is wrong. The very fact that the person is a criminal does not justify the fact that due process has been scuttled. Your response to that, Shashank?
Namaste Madhavji and my fellow panelists and the viewers. Madhavji, I guess there are two aspects to this. Part one, I was reading through the passage of the Supreme Court judgment, and Supreme Court has not said that any particular incident was illegal as far as Uttar Pradesh is concerned. So irrespective of we are talking about Atiq Ahmed or Vikas Dubey, all are clear as far as proper procedure of the law while demolishing a particular house is concerned. Now to the other aspect, whether we can demolish a particular property or not. So, because this panel also includes various Supreme Court senior lawyers, so they must be supporting me on this, that that right to property is no more a fundamental right. So, any property which is illegal in nature can be demolished, and Supreme Court has said the same thing. It is saying that you can demolish something after 15 days of notice. So, what is wrong in that? I completely support this, and bulldozer is something which is used to demolish a particular property, not only in India but across the globe. Now Supreme Court saying that executive cannot become judiciary. That is through the separation of law. Even Constitution says that judiciary cannot replace executive and vice versa. So that is very clear. As far as this today's judgment is concerned, Madhavji, one very important aspect. We need to understand that any state in this country has Gunda Act, where they fix certain people in a particular category, whereby they see that if they are responsible and there are precautionary measures for those people. So likewise, in a big state like Uttar Pradesh, these people are in the category of Gunda Act, where they see that if they are responsible for any illegal act, for example, riots, etc., and that is why they becomes the first one to have their house demolished. But if you have illegal house, you should be ready for the demolition, because then you cannot claim before the Supreme Court that we have right to life or right to equality, because then Supreme Court will not protect you, because in this case Supreme Court has not protected them. Supreme Court has passed a very blanket, very generalized, very principled ideology which is there already in the Constitution of India.
Yeah, is it that simple, Sanjay Hegde? Because here you have Shashank Shekhar Jha who says that this is what the Constitution prescribes. It's anyway being followed. Is that the fact? Then if that is indeed the case, then why is this judgment, acquiring such kind of political dimensions, where you see several political parties, particularly of the opposition, welcoming this judgment? Sanjay Hegde.
Well, I don't want to get into the politics of it. I argued the matter. I was among the many lawyers who argued the matter. So, let me tell you exactly what this judgment says. This judgment says that bulldozer justice, the way it was operated in India, was antithetical to the rule of law. The executive could not become judge, jury, and executioner, and it has put in safeguards. Most importantly, it says that if there is an officer who authorizes these bulldozings, and thereafter it is found that that is not merited, compensation can be recovered from the personal pockets of the officers concerned. Therefore, this is a salutary warning to every administrative officer that please do not go out of your way to please a politician who says off with their heads, down with their houses. But politicians will come into office and go out. The bureaucracy will be there, and it will continue to remain answerable to the courts. So what this judgment has done is to put a brake on unlawful bulldozing. If you want to bring down a structure, you can bring it down only to the extent of encroachment. Supposing somebody has created an illegal balcony, but the rest of the structure is perfectly valid, then only that much. You cannot have rampant bulldozers with an attendant media circus, and some of your colleagues, Madhav, were particularly guilty, especially in the Delhi case, where an anchor rode alongside the bulldozers, and then there was something else that happened. I must actually thank that anchor publicly, and it was because of such excess that all this came to light. There, the Supreme Court had passed an order of stay. The authorities downstairs, to please the media spectacle, wanted to go ahead. The Supreme Court had to reiterate its stay. People had to stand in front of the bulldozers. That is why today it's a historic judgment. And anybody who thinks that this is just something optional does it as at his or her peril.
Right. Right. Let me bring in Deepak Reddy as well. Deepak Reddy, 2 or 3 important points there being made by Sanjay Hegde. But he says the importance of this judgment is that it is also a clear warning to officials that they cannot abuse their power. It's very much said in black and white that the executive cannot become a judge. And that appeared to be happening at least, which is why the courts were so concerned about this matter. In your state of Andhra Pradesh as well, there have been controversial demolitions at the hands of Bulldozer that we've seen in recent months. Deepak Reddy.
Madhav, I don't want to talk much about Andhra Pradesh because it was done with political motives there. But talking about UP and certain other parts of India, today if you see the comments made by a whole lot of politicians, they were talking about 3 aspects: protecting the rights of criminals, accused, and Muslims. These are the final words what each of those comments made by each of the politicians. In my opinion, I don't think many people in India care much about a criminal whose house is going to be torn down or an accused in a grave crime. The issue, let's be honest, it's all about Muslims here. So I have a certain question to ask. Supreme Court has taken a lot of pain to go into the details.
You have to follow what the court has said. The court says that even for a convict, you have to follow due process. We have to
that is exactly
that, don't we?
No, I'm coming to that only. And to an extra detail, giving them time, giving them time to vacate, then time for a notice period, then getting a personal hearing. I mean, extreme detail it has gone into. And then how the demolition should take place. So the rights of these criminals or people who are involved in grave crime is being protected. But what about the rights of those people who are honest, law-abiding citizens of this country, who are being targeted by certain communities on religious fanatical lines? So after 75 years, something should have been done on those grounds also. Why such action has been taken in the first place is to deter them from doing such grave acts is a basic point there. So I am of the opinion that this judgment, we should welcome it. We can't go against what the Supreme Court says. But at the same time, it has to have a sympathy for those innocent people who respect the laws of this land also. Because this has been going on for a long, long time.
All right, let me bring in fact, Kamruzaman Chaudhary. Kamruzaman Chaudhary, you are seeing opposition leaders, come out to say that it's a slap in the government's face, asserting that the parties such as Samajwadi Party and other opposition parties have been raising it for a long time. Why is this, a huge moment for opposition is a question that many would ask at this point of time. Please respond to that.
Madhav, over the last few years, we have seen that Bulldozer has been an instrument of state policy in suppressing the protesters or suppressing those not aligned with the views and the thought process of the Narendra Modi government and his state governments. Then basically what happened is, let me cite you one example of Chhatrapur, where after he led a protest against the comments of Giri Maharaj, his around 10 to 20 crores of property, including some of his cars, were bulldozed by the Mohan Yadav government in Chhatrapur. What was that justice all about? Even we have seen in Kanpur, when there was a protest against Nupur Sharma's comments, in Kanpur, Afrin Fatima's house was demolished in Kanpur. What was the justice all about? You can justify bulldozing a house of a criminal. But suppose, Madhav, I go out to protest against the government's policies and program. Does it mean that tomorrow Yogi Adityanath sends his bulldozer army and bulldoze my house? That's what the government has been doing all along, and a fear has set in the entire length and breadth of the country, particularly in Assam, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. That I mean to say the BJP ruled states out here. Now the Supreme Court in its all wisdom has come out and castigated all these actions of the government. But one thing I need to remind out here, why does the government, why did the Honorable Supreme Court just castigate the officers who are just carrying out mere orders of the legislature? That is directly from the Chief Minister office these orders were coming. So I believe after this order that has come out, these three chief ministers of Uttar Pradesh, Assam and Madhya Pradesh should issue a public apology and get the state funds or their own personal funds to rebuild those houses whose houses they have demolished just for a petty excuse. That's my limited view on this. And I thank Mr. Hegde for leading a war for millions of people who have been looking to this judgment. Today it is indeed a historic judgment. I believe this bulldozer justice that has been used as an instrument of state policy to suppress dissent has been curbed by this today's order.
Let me ask you one question though, Kamruzaman Chaudhary. You can put those questions across to the BJP spokesperson, but here is a statement of Mr. Asuddin Owaisi. He says, hopefully this will prevent state governments from collectively punishing Muslims and other marginalized groups. And we've just taken the example of Vikas Yadav, Rakesh Yadav, Munna Yadav, the Saharanpur rape accused and others. The point that is being made over here, and there are of course other investigations that have shown that a large percentage of those whose houses were demolished are not just Muslims but those who belong to the Hindu faith also. So is it correct for opposition parties to link this with one particular faith, in your view? Kamruzaman Chaudhary.
No, there's a very broader pattern to this majoritarian and the state sanctioned actions aimed at enforcing compliance and conformity. But what happened is there were houses from the Hindu community that were affected and that were bulldozed. But mostly, Madhav, it has disproportionately affected a particular Muslim community all across India. Whether it was actions in Assam, whether it was actions in Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat or Rajasthan, or particularly in Uttar Pradesh, you have seen all along there are more than 50% of people's houses which have been illegally built or without a proper due sanction process. Madhav, if you carry out a survey across the length and breadth of India, you will find almost every city has got 50% of the houses which are unauthorized. Does it mean that you go on a bulldozer raj to demolish all those unauthorized? Why did these houses come up in the first instance? Or when a crime has happened or when a protest has happened, how does the bulldozer land at that person's unauthorized construction? Even not before knowing what is going to that house was being built illegally or without a sanction plan? This is not an excuse. This was a majoritarian ploy to teach the Muslim community in particular a lesson, better be in line or will bulldoze.
It's a majoritarian ploy. Of course, Kamruzaman Chaudhary demanding that the chief ministers of the state should apologize. But I'm reading out from a Dainik Bhaskar investigation which talks about 1,935 properties of accused that were razed to the ground using bulldozers in 7 states over 7 years. And after Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh is the second one. And the Dainik Bhaskar has gone on to say that bulldozer action on 62% of Muslims and 38% of Hindus in Madhya Pradesh. The larger question that's being asked over here is that whether this is a problem that has been used to target the minority community. It's some kind of majoritarian agenda that opposition parties are alleging on BJP ruled states.
See, I was listening to Mr. Chaudhary, and again he was standing with the victim card placard. I am a Muslim, I am a victim. 5 religious communities are there in minority commission, but only one religious community which has second largest population living in this great nation of ours. They keep on crying, saying that we are being victimized, but whole of the world knows that how we Hindus had to fight for 500 years to get our Ram Mandir constructed. This is the sole example in whole of the world where the majority population has had to fight to get Ram Mandir constructed. Okay, now we come back to the bulldozer action. So just now the gentleman was saying that more than 65% of the bulldozed buildings are of one particular religious community, that is of Muslims. So what to do? Because these are the people who are deep into illegal things, especially if I talk about the illegal construction. And you cannot justify by saying that if somebody has done illegality or the illegal construction, he or she has got whole right on the humanitarian grounds that they can reside in that. Of course not. Rule of law doesn't say that. And as Supreme Court says that executors should not do the work of judiciary, absolutely. Legislature should do its work, Judiciary should do its work and executive should do its work. But the thing is, when these three pillars of democracy start crossing their lines and start encroaching the work of other, then the problem arises. Now here Mr. Chaudhary quoted an example that one lady from the Kanpur, when she was doing dharna procession against Nupur Sharma, her house was bulldozed. Did he go and check that whether that building where she was living in was illegally constructed or legally constructed? Of course not. He can justify about the doings of his religious community when they shoot on back of one young youth, and his crime was that he was trying to remove their flag. This was his crime, and he was shot dead. He has got all the sympathies for that. So do not try to accuse, blame, ridicule Hindus living in this great nation of ours. And if I talk about the bulldoze action, let me tell you very clearly, for the BJP ruled states, and especially for Uttar Pradesh, action will keep on happening, but in legal framework.
ओके अखिलेश कटियार जवाब दीजिए। एक्शन विल कंटिन्यू टू हैपन इन लीगल फ्रेमवर्क, और कह रहे हैं कि अगर जिन लोगों की डेमोलिशंस हुई हैं अगर वो कानून के दायरे से बाहर है और अनऑथराइज कंस्ट्रक्शन हुई है तो डेमोलिशन तो जरूर होगी। और एक और सवाल आपसे ये जरूर पूछना चाहूंगा कि जहां तक आपकी इंडिया ब्लॉक के सहयोगी है, इन्होंने जो एमवीए गवर्नमेंट में बीएमसी ने जब कंगना रनौत की पाली हिल बंगलो की डेमोलिशन की थी, जब उन्होंने मुंबई और पीओके का कंपैरिजन ड्रॉ किया था, उसके बाद बॉम्बे हाईकोर्ट ने भी कहा था कि एक्शन बाय बीएमसी वाज विद मैलिस, द मैनर इन व्हिच डेमोलिशन वाज कैरिड आउट मेंट दैट इट वाज अ सिनिस्टर अटेम्प्ट टू साइलेंस कंगना। तो ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ यूपी या एमपी में डेमोलिशंस हुई हैं, पॉलिटिकल डेमोलिशंस या टारगेटेड डेमोलिशंस ऑपोजिशन रूल स्टेट्स में भी हुई हैं। अखिलेश जी।
जी माधव साहब, जो माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जो बयान की जो मूल भावना है, उन्होंने कहा कि आप जज नहीं बने। भारत के जो संविधान है उसमें जो कानून की व्यवस्था है वो सक्षम है अपराधियों को सजा देने में, और जब आप उन अपराधियों के घरों पे बुलडोजर चला के ये शो कर रहे होते हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं ये मैसेज भी दे रहे होते हैं कि क्या कानून इतना निरीह है, इतना कमजोर है। तो माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा कि आप जज नहीं बने, आप अपनी शक्तियों का दुरुपयोग नहीं करें। ये भारत के आप सत्ता में हैं, 10 साल से केंद्र में है, मध्य प्रदेश में है, उत्तर प्रदेश में है, जो अपराधी उन्हें सजा दीजिए, कौन रोकता है, लेकिन कानून के तरीके से दे। जब आप बुलडोजर चला रहे होते हैं तो वहां पे क्या मैसेज है कि आप और आप कह रहे हैं ये अपराधी है, इन्होंने अपने अपराध किए, इन्होंने ये किया है, इनका ये ट्रैक है। भाई किसने रोका था उन्हें अब उन अपराधियों को सजा ना दे, लेकिन कानून के दायरे में रख के दे। हम सब जो इस देश का आम नागरिक है वो इस बात में महसूस करता है, राहत महसूस करता है, उसका विश्वास बढ़ता है कि कानून हमारा सबके लिए है। अगर बड़े से बड़ा आदमी अपराध करेगा तो कानून उसे सजा देगा। और हम सब लोग, क्योंकि भारतीय जनता पार्टी की निष्ठा संविधान में नहीं है, संविधान के द्वारा बने हुए कानून में नहीं है। यहां तो माधव साहब आपने वो भी देखा है कि सरकार अपने लोगों के केस वापस ले रही है। यह भी इसी देश में देखा है, उत्तर प्रदेश में देखा है, महाराष्ट्र में भी देखा गया है। और चाहे महाराष्ट्र में हो, चाहे देश के किसी हिस्से में हो, अगर ये गैर तरीके से, गलत तरीके से कोई बुलडोजर से कार्रवाई की जाती है, हम हर उस गैर तरीके के काम की निंदा करते हैं, वो किसी भी सरकार के द्वारा की जाती है।
जी, और सवाल ये उठता है, लेकिन अखिलेश जी आपने मेरे सवाल का जवाब नहीं दिया। कंगना रनौत की डेमोलिशन वो लीगल थी क्योंकि बॉम्बे हाईकोर्ट ने खुद सवाल उठाए हैं।
जी नहीं माधव साहब, मैं आपको बिल्कुल क्लियर बताऊं, मैंने उसके बारे में बहुत डिटेल से पढ़ा नहीं है। अगर मैं पढ़ा होता तो मैं जरूर सही जवाब देता, लेकिन अगर वो इलीगल है, गलत है,
सर हर
तो
जगह इसकी जानकारी जी, सवाल यही उठता है कि क्या is there some selective reading of what is happening, because there appears to be similar kind of situation that has arisen in opposition ruled states as well. And in fact, apart from the aspect of criminality, Shashank Shekhar Jha, I'd like to ask you on some of the other points that have been made. Now, the big question that arises out of this is that if they are saying that if any officers of state has abused their powers, acted in a totally arbitrary or malified manner, they cannot be spared for such an illegal, arbitrary, malified exercise of power. The question that then arises is, states where this kind of bulldozer demolition has taken place, are they then going to act on their officers? Because this is something that, though no state or no particular instance might have been named, appears to be a direction coming in from the side of Supreme Court on state governments. Shashank Shekhar Jha.
Madhavji, before coming to you, I would like to respond to the caveats which have been brought to your channel. The Samajwadi spokesperson is saying illegal things. अरे आपके तो नेता ने कहा था कि लड़के हैं गलतियां हो जाती है. That too for the rape accused. कमरू चौधरी यहाँ पे बोल रहे हैं नुपुर शर्मा की बात. अरे नुपुर शर्मा के पीछे कितने लोग, कितने हिंदुओं का गला काट दिया गया. Did they take any account of that? So we need to also see the hypocrisy of the panelists here. See, I am all in support of the Supreme Court judgment today, because we also have Sanjay Hegde ji here who was there to defend the stance of the Supreme Court today. But we also need to see that this generalized act, this generalized judgment of Supreme Court has not condemned any action of any BJP ruled state, which Kamru Chaudhary or Samajwadi spokesman is trying to portray on this channel. We need to very clearly understand that this is not Samajwadi ruled Uttar Pradesh, where जब मुजफ्फरनगर दंगा होता है तो हिंदुओं को उसमें कंपनसेशन नहीं देके सिर्फ मुसलमानों को दे रहे थे कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट को बीच में बोलना पड़ा. या फॉर एग्जांपल जैसे बीजेपी की स्पोक्सपर्सन कह रही है कि राम मंदिर के लिए हमको 500 साल का वेट करना पड़ा, और कांग्रेस के नेता सुप्रीम कोर्ट में जाके कह रहे हैं, जो वकील भी हैं, कि 2019 के लोकसभा चुनाव तक इसको टाल दिया जाए. तो वी हैव कम अक्रॉस दोज थिंग्स. नाउ वी आर in this rule of justice, rule of law, where it is very clear, if you do something illegally, your house will be demolished. So any theory which Kamru Chaudhary will be presenting here will not be justified. What he is saying is that you keep your eyes closed because those illegal acts are very normal. So it may be normal during your rule, but not anymore. Now even the Supreme Court's न्याय की मूर्ति has an eye without that shadow. So पहले जो आंख में पट्टी बंधी होती थी न्याय की मूर्ति पे, वो भी हट गई है. So I guess इस तरीके का बयान बिल्कुल नहीं देना चाहिए कि इलीगल है, सब लोग इलीगल कर रहे हैं तो इलीगल करने दो. अरे इलीगल तो पाकिस्तान भी जम्मू कश्मीर में बैठा हुआ है, तो क्या छोड़ दें उसको? तो इस तरीके की बातें क्यों कर रहे हैं आप? इलीगल है, इलीगल का सपोर्ट मत कीजिए. मैं कहता हूं सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट का सपोर्ट कीजिए. किसी के साथ गलत नहीं होना चाहिए, आर्बिट्रेरी डिसीजन नहीं होना चाहिए, लेकिन आप इलीगल को सपोर्ट करने लग जाइएगा. अरे मोदी विरोध में देश विरोध मत करिए. And I guess Madhav ji.
Okay, Sanjay Hegde, I want you to respond to that because he's referring to. Yeah.
Though we are on opposite side, but I guess even Sanjay ji will agree on this point of mine, that you cannot support illegal stuff in the name of equality or for that one marginalized community or etc.
You want me to respond?
Okay, Sanjay Hegde, direct question aimed at you, but I was about to ask a simple question. Yeah, I want you to respond to that question plus one more, because he seems to suggest that there is no state that has been named. So this action on these members of the executive, the officers who've carried out the demolitions, is that something that you foresee happening, and has that been envisaged in this judgment? Will that practically happen on ground? Sanjay Hegde.
Please see the last sentence of the judgment. It says that all these matters will be heard 4 weeks later. It is not as if the matters, the adjudication on facts has been done away with. Each case will be gone into. I appeared for a gentleman called Ganesh Gupta, who ran a juice center in Jahangirpuri. And this is exactly what happens. You see, you want to get hold of somebody or the other, and then you indiscriminately demolish everyone. The point is simple. You may be accused of a crime. The punishment for the crime, a single person will undergo. There is nothing in the law which authorizes you to bring down that person's house. So far, there is no legislation. If such a legislation was made, it would be unconstitutional. Now, without all that, what has been said is, no, it's not in response to the crime. but we are bringing it down because it was unauthorized. Today's judgment says, before you come to that determination, you have to issue a notice, you have to have a hearing, you have to have an appeal, and it should be judicially reviewable. All safeguards have been put in, and if those safeguards are ignored, the officers will pay from their personal pockets. So I do not think that anybody should be in a hurry to jump on and start a bulldozer now.
Right. And the question then that will happen, Mr. Deepak Reddy, is that while the Jagan Party office demolition at that point of time, the TDP's defense was that it was built illegally. The big question is that such kind of demolitions that have happened in Andhra Pradesh, although, as you mentioned earlier, there are political aspects to it. But the point is that will we be seeing action taking place in such cases as well? Deepak Reddy.
Madhav, if you clearly see, there hasn't been many demolitions done by the TDP government. But such demolitions took place during the Jagan's government earlier, illegally on Friday. So that was purely politics. But looking at our current topic, today if you see the panelists or if you see anybody from outside who are making comments on this judgment, none of them are talking about Hindus being affected here, or none of them are talking about criminals being either Hindus or Muslims. But only certain section, like Asad, clearly says that now the Muslims are being protected. So everything boils down to that, the Muslim community feels that they are being targeted by this, but we don't look at it that way. If it is a criminal, he's a criminal. He's neither a Hindu criminal or a Muslim criminal. That's not the way how to look at it. But this issue of religion is being raised here purely with an intention to take shield. In my opinion, a criminal has to be dealt harshly. Certain times they don't understand, the rule of law. So when their mindset is way back in the medieval days or in a primitive time, and they don't understand to any rational, yes, certain times such harsh judgments or such harsh steps have to be taken for a change in the society. So we probably have to look at that. And what's more important is how do you protect the rights of the larger community?
You're certainly entitled to your opinion, but the Supreme Court guidelines are very clear. It is 15 days of notice, videography of the proceedings, several such guidelines that will now have to be implemented when such bulldozer action does take place anywhere in the country, not just the 7 states where such demolitions have been reported in the recent past. I'd like to thank our entire panel, Anla Singh, Deepak Reddy, Shashank Shekhar Jha, Sanjay Hegde, Akhilesh Katiyar, as well as Kamru Zaman Chaudhary. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.